Hi, I'm the Dean of Credibility, Double D, and this is the YouTube exclusive for Double Stomp videos. Of course, check us out at Double Stomp Vids on Twitter, right here. And I am sitting with a man. He's been in the business for a long, long time. Well, maybe not that long, but he's been around the business for many, many years. And it is, of course, what is your position with OTW? Are you the owner?
Yeah, owner, operator, CEO of the wrestling end of it, but I actually own the business of OTW. Actually, it's OTW Entertainment LLC.
A limited,
real professional.
Yes.
I learned that from Heyman.
There you go. You have to do it now. So you've been around for wrestling. Where did you get the start? Was it part of Goodhart? Were you part of that?
Yeah, I went. Actually, Goodhart hadn't started yet, and had the wrestling fan club, and started going to the matches, the NWA shows at the Civic Center, the old Philadelphia Civic Center. And he was the ring announcer, and he had the fan club going, and they'd have the luncheons where the guys would come in, usually the NWA guys come in, do a luncheon, meet and greet.
And this was in conjunction with his radio?
Yeah, right, the radio show. Then he started the promotion. And the promotion had gone for like a year or so before I got into it. And I called him and I said, hey, I'd really like to be a manager. I wanted to be Jim Cornette, Bobby Heenan.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I've got a couple of managers and I really don't need another one. He said, what I really need is a referee. And he gave me all the details of the cost and the training schedule and all that. And he said, give me a call back in a couple of days and let me know what you think. So I hung up, talked to my wife, had a good job at the time, so I had a 401k plan that they actually, at that time, they would pay into. They don't do that nowadays. Yeah. So I had some money stashed away, and she said, if you want to do it, that's fine. So I called him back 10 minutes later and said, I'm in. And the next week I was training, and 8 weeks later I was in the ring for my first match.
Now, who were some other referees? I think Joe Zanoli was a referee.
Joe Zanoli and John Finnegan. Okay. And John Finnegan actually was the trainer of the referees at the time. And Joe Zanoli was already trained, so those two were working shows, and I was the third one in.
Now, back at that time for New Jersey, this was actually heavily commissioned at the time. So when you say Finnegan was training the referees, I mean, this was like legit training.
Well, yeah, it was training. The school was in Pennsylvania. It was in Philadelphia. But the only thing you really needed for New Jersey was the license, and you could work.
Okay.
And I can remember a couple weeks after I started working, we did a weekend that had 2 shows in New Jersey, and I couldn't work them because I didn't have a license yet. So I just did the one Philly, or I guess it wasn't Philly, Pennsylvania show. Yeah. And just helped out behind the scenes with the other 2 shows. That was where I got my start.
Okay, so the end of the TWA, of course, the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance, that kind of turned into what became Eastern Championship Wrestling. Right. A different backer at this point, Tod Gordon. Were you were just thrown in from the very beginning?
Yeah, Tod had told everyone that was part of TWA that they were welcome to be part of ECW. And so that's what we did. And Larry Winters was the booker at the time. I guess maybe Tod was too, but mainly Larry because he had the wrestling background. And so everybody jumped on board and came along and started doing, spot shows here and there. He'd bring in a couple of guys, name guys, former, WWE guys, Snuka, Bulldog came in one time.
Morocco was a big guy in the early days.
Yeah, Morocco. Well, Morocco was very good friends, and probably still is, with Bob and Lex Ortiz. Bob Ortiz, ring announcer. So they would, use Don a lot, and Don would stay at their house. And they were good friends and hung out. So, yeah, Don came in a lot.
When you look back at the early days, what comes to your mind first? The early days of ECW, is it family? Is it?
I don't really know if it was as much of a family when it first started as it was when Paul came in and kind of like around the time of the Barely Legal really became a much tighter group. Or even just before that, we were a much tighter group. But I think because so many name outsiders would come in for Eastern before television and all that, before the Gilbert days, I don't think it was as tight as a group because we weren't running on a regular basis, just spot shows here and there. But when Gilbert came in, we had the TV, the local Philadelphia TV, So it became more of a consistent thing. So I think, and the same guys would be here every week, even the name guys. It would usually be the same name guys week after week for TV, the house shows and all. So I think that made us tighter as a group, as a family.
A strange question, and it just came to my mind.
It's wrestling, why not?
Yeah, but do you get the WWE Network and go back and look at some of these old things? Like, because right now they have Hardcore TV
Right.
in its own section, and there you are. I mean, do you go back and do that?
I'd be lying if I said no.
Yeah.
The only thing that I have watched, just to go, ooh, I want to watch that, was one of the Guerrero-Malenko matches.
Okay.
And it wasn't because I was in it. It was because I love those matches.
Yeah.
That's really the only ECW thing I've watched on the network, because I was there.
Yeah.
And if there's something that I go, ooh, I don't remember that, I might watch it. I'm still in 1987 in World Class.
Yeah.
Watching that stuff. I really don't watch very much. I don't watch much of the WWE stuff that they have. But I watched the Saturday Night Main Event that had Terry Funk against Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, the January '86 show.
Wow,
Yeah.
Terry Funk worked his ass off.
Oh.
That was a great match.
That was one of my favorite matches. Before
I don't remember seeing it. That's what's great about it.
I was 10 years old. I remember that match, and that's when I became a Terry Funk fan, actually, because of that match. Of course, later on, during the ECW years, Terry Funk was a huge thing. He actually got me, when he won the title in '97, he got me going to the arena. So that was my introduction to the arena, and that's a whole other thing. When I go back to the ECW days, and there's so many questions with ECW, but one thing that always, because there's so many promotions now that just can't get that magic that they have, but you go back and you look at these early, like 93, 94 ECW days, and you see that they have a crowd like many independent crowds have now, like 40 or 50 people in that crowd. And then you watch maybe a year later, and that place is packed.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it was about the magic? Was it the names? Was it the...
No, it was the change in the direction of the group, of the promotion. Eddie Gilbert was very organized and would come in with 3 weeks, 4 weeks of TV all written out, ready to go, and didn't look at, and I love working with him, didn't look at his market. Paul came in and looked and said, this is a town that has this, this, and this, so let's try to get the people that are into that into what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So he looked and saw there's Temple University, University of Pennsylvania, Drexel, LaSalle, saw that there were those college kids, and approached it, in my feeling is that he approached it as someone who was promoting a rock band. So I really consider ECW to be compared to like a Nirvana.
Yeah, he's going on
at
record
the
saying
time.
it, yeah.
Right, so that's the comparison. So we just took that model of Nirvana and that market that they were approaching, and used the wrestling to bring in those same people.
Do you think it was the hardcore, though, or just that he found this niche? That
I think it was a combination of it, and I really hate using the word hardcore for ECW because there are so many matches. If you look at an entire show, there might be 2 hardcore matches.
Exactly.
And there are tons of matches of, like I said, Malenko Guerrero, Jericho, Al Snow, comedy matches with the BWO. So there's a variety of different things. Lucha matches with Super Crazy, Tajiri.
So he was the first one who brought those guys in.
Right. So he looked, and at the time the tape trading was popular. So he looked and see who was popular on the tape trading, tried to bring either that person or that type of person, wrestler in. So he was really... He must have had must have looked like Patton's approach to World War II, somewhere in his house, and moved pieces around and set things up and had an attack, and it worked.
What is it like working for Paul Heyman? Paul Heyman's still in the business, still at the top of his game, still with Brock Lesnar. Lesnar's probably going to come back around the time that this comes out. So he's still there. He's still somebody that's relevant on a national scale. What was it like working from his mother's basement, so to say?
Well, actually, that wasn't his mother's basement. that was Ron Buffone, the
production yeah.
guy. That was his mother's basement. Everybody thinks it was Paul's parents' house. But it was crazy. I mean, we were kind of all spread out. I mean, the production was in New York, so Tommy and Taz and Joey Styles, and there was that New York group, there was that Philly group. So we didn't really get involved with that end of it unless you were needed up there for something. But working for him, he just, he had it in his head what he wanted to do that day, but didn't have it written down. And he'd be writing the lineup as the first, Paul, the first match has to go. Okay, I'm getting there. Okay, shows would start at, whatever. Shows supposed to start at 8 o'clock, and it starts at 8:45, not 9:45, but 8:45 or something like that. I can remember Steve Austin, the first time he came to the ECW arena, Mikey and Whipwreck and I are sitting there, and he said, what time's the show start? 8 o'clock? And Mikey goes, hey, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, well, whatever.
Yeah. I can remember going to Born to Be Wired. Of course, people don't remember this unless you lived during that time and went to the arena, but that wasn't the advertised match. Terry Funk against Sabu wasn't the advertised match. So that just shows you that and that's really one of the only times, the last time that he had a barbed wire match.
Right. And then here's a little note of my history. That's the only barbed wire match the ECW did that I didn't do.
Really?
Pee-wee worked it.
Yeah.
I did every other one, all the ones on the road, the Sandman Cactus Jack matches, crazy ones like that, the barbed wire tag match with the Thumbs against Public Enemy. I did those. I did a lot of the crazier matches, and this started in TWA also, because there were some crazy matches in TWA, the original Sheik against Abdul the Butcher, where, other referees wouldn't want to do it. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't care. And I think that kind of became my niche with the company, that, Jim will do this. This is crazy, Jim will do it. So, but yeah, that's the only barbed wire match I didn't do. Sabu needed Pee-wee for something specific in the match. Okay. And, said, can he do it? I'm like, yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, wow.
Really didn't want to play with Terry Funk and barbed wire.
That match, when you're backstage and something like that's going on, now I've been privy to a few things with a few of the promotions I've done, but when you're backstage and you see that they're just entangled in, your heart has to sink a little bit. I mean, what are you feeling seeing that? Well, I mean, it might be a little harder there because of how everything was set up.
As a referee, I think it might be a little different because we were always on the ready to go out there if something needed
and help out
if something needed to be done. So we would watch, and of course the emotion that runs with it, with somebody maybe getting hurt or whatever. But we'd know we have to go out there and do our job, and we were just always on the ready to get out there if we were needed to. So I mean, we would pop for stuff, but we'd also have natural reactions where I think the fans might cheer more for something that might be a little crazy, where we're like, ooh, is he okay?
Yeah, I think that's one different thing, behind the curtain,
right,
that a lot of people may not realize is that's my friend.
Right.
But
then also, once you find out they're okay and you hear that crowd chanting ECW, you're like, yeah, we got it.
What is that like? Because today there's really not a promotion that can actually do that. Instead of chanting for the Sandman or chanting, Sabu sometimes they chanted for, but instead of chanting for a wrestler, they were chanting for the company. That had to be a great amount of pride for you.
Yes, it was amazing. You wouldn't be able to react to it in the ring, and you get back from the match, especially a match like, I always think of like Lance Storm and Jerry Lynn that they would chant for, and you get in the back and you're like, we got it, we got it, we did it, and I say we because it's a three-man show out there, and my job's not to be known as the referee or whatever, but as long as I do what I'm supposed to do to make sure the match runs right, then I'm part of it. I feel I'm part of it. And we were a family. Maybe other promotions and people aren't like that now, but like you said before, we were a family, and the referees were part of that niche.
How would you describe the ECW referee style? Might be a little different than most promotion. What would you describe that style? Was it something, because a lot of times I can only think of one disqualification from '97 on. That was Terry Funk against.
That was me.
That was you.
That was me.
You. But it was when Francine came in and bit Terry Funk on the ear. How much different was to kind of have that hands-off style? Because
it's like being a traffic cop at a demolition derby. Terry Funk once told me that I was the best referee for a company that didn't need referees. Now, I didn't know how to take it, and I never asked him about it. I'm like, what does that mean I'm a bad referee? But the company did need referees. I mean, if you go back and watch it, we're still doing the counts on the ropes and you know, hey, get off his hair, get off the ropes, get out of the corner, everything a regular referee would do. Just, you know, we would let things go a little longer or a little expanded.
what are some of your, just give me like maybe your top 2 moments in ECW? Whether you were a part of it or whether you were just there. Besides Barely Legal, I'm sure that's going to be a highlight.
Barely Legal was definitely, if not number 1, it was definitely number 2. The other one that I put with it is the night they crossed the line.
The 60 minute.
The 60-minute
3-man.
3-man. Yeah, I did that match. I think the only 2 people that were out there the whole time were myself and Sherry Martel.
Yeah.
And I can remember telling somebody, I have to go back and watch it. I told somebody, bump me, so I can take a break.
Yeah.
I needed to take a break. And we were out there for the entire 60 minutes. And at the time, we mentioned tape trading before. That was a big thing. That was the tape trading tape that got ECW over the top.
It really was. That's when the buzz started, and TV wasn't too far behind.
No.
It was very close.
It was right there.
Yeah,
it was all
right
around the same time.
And of course, the press conference afterwards
Right.
with Shane and Terry Funk. So there's all that. I could talk ECW all day with you. Frankly, I'm gonna.
If I could remember it, I could talk it too.
But let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. Maybe a lot of people don't know where Jim Molineaux went.
Yeah.
But Jim Molineaux is here at the OTW Arena. Talk a little bit about OTW. How'd you get started here?
OTW started out of working at another wrestling school in the area, and everybody kind of factioned off at one point.
Yeah.
And at the time, we were still running matches under the banner of old time wrestling, OTW, and we went off on our own. Came up with this building, our own facility. We do the training. We run weekly shows from Labor Day to Memorial Day weekend. Every Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock. So we have the school, we have the shows, we do birthday parties for kids, the whole bit, and been doing it quietly here, trying to, for various reasons, stay under the radar. But now I think we're ready to expand, and people are knowing about us and hearing about us. And you mentioned, you know, what does it feel like to have somebody chanting the company name, ECW? Mm-hmm. We went through that. Well, we've had it here with some people.
Really?
So, and that really gets me, because I guess it was the same feeling Paul had when he would hear people chanting ECW. I get the same feeling when I hear him chanting OTW.
You said under the radar just a minute ago. Now, why would that be the business plan to begin?
Just because of
so many other places
and all the bullshit that goes along with wrestling.
I can
I've been through it, tired of it, don't need it. I like going home to my wife and not having to tell her about my woes of wrestling, because she heard plenty in ECW. So, you know, it was a lot easier to fly under the radar and not stir the pot or cause any problems. I don't want to fight with any other companies. I just don't want that crap. And I, you know, as much as I love my guys and they work hard and I work hard, if it came to it, I'd shut the doors if it became too much bullshit.
Yeah.
It became too much of a headache, too much trouble. I've done what I've done, and I'd be more than pleased to walk away.
How do you feel about what you've done? Do you look back and go, that's because I sitting next to you, I can tell you, I was on the other side of the guardrail. I saw you month in, month out. I followed ECW from Bluebell, from Wildwood, yes, Bluebell, yeah, but from Bluebell to Wildwood to Philly and all around. A
great story about that Wildwood show.
But I mean, how do you feel
I look back at it and said, I don't think I can do anything better. They tried to recreate ECW with WWE. I was there for a cup of tea of it, and walked away before they even offered me a contract or anything, because I didn't have the same feeling about it.
Yeah.
And I had a decent enough job outside of wrestling that I was like, well, I don't need the hassle to go through all this again. I own the business outside of wrestling that I have, so, you know, why do I need the aggravation? And I wouldn't want to put my family through what a lot of the problems with ECW were. I'd be afraid that they would come up again, and I wouldn't want to put my family through that again.
Well, see, and that's the thing that I interviewed John Finnegan a while ago, and he was offered the contract. Tommy actually offered him the contract, and he said he had to turn it down because he had stuff outside of wrestling. He had a 401k. He had a great job.
Had insurance.
That was a big thing.
Yeah, when you have kids, you need insurance.
And he didn't want to turn that down for however long they could have you.
Right.
You
yeah,
know?
I mean, I own my own business outside of wrestling, and I do good enough there that my wife doesn't hassle me to go out and make more money or do something else.
Yeah.
So I'm content. I get home at a decent hour. I can watch cartoons when I want. I can go to the gym if I feel like it. So it's a lot easier life, and I'm happy with it. But I've done that hectic part of ECW, and I'm happier that I did ECW than something else that may have been as hectic, because I don't think it would have had the same feeling.
Definitely, especially when you get to that 1997 era. And
right.
It's unfortunate that just 4 years later it was gone,
right.
But I'm not talking about the bad stuff. Let's talk a little bit more about OTW. Where can people find out about OTW if they want to go online?
Online, www.oldtimewrestling.net has all of our information about our events, our training, birthday parties, all of our social medias there. The actual Twitter, I know that just off the top of my head because I do it, is at OTW Updates. Any of the other information is on the website. You can get that and you see clips of some of our guys and, see what's going on here.
Who are some of the guys, either previously or presently, that you're proud of from OTW?
The one I can come with off right at the top of my head is Mick Drake. Mick's been here with us since we started, since he came to us, and he's been with us since day one. He's gone out and done some things, training camps, down the Performance Center, WWE, and all that kind of stuff. Brian Johnson, who is my right-hand man here, they're starting to get out and work the local independents in the area. But those guys, right off the top of my head, but anyone who's been loyal to me is who I'm proud of.
There you go.
Anybody who hasn't been loyal, see you, buddy.
Well, loyalty is an often overlooked thing in wrestling.
It absolutely is.
It's a sad part of wrestling, but I do want to thank you for your time.
No problem.
It's
Glad to do it.
one hell of a pleasure to talk with you. You're one of my guys.
Oh, stop.
I'm a Jim Molineaux guy.
Stop.
There's a lot of
me blush.
But thank you again.
Stop.
Yeah, but thank you again. Make sure you check out more. I'm, of course, the Dean of Credibility, Double D. I was with Jim Molineaux. And check out Double Stomp Vids at Double Stomp Vids on Twitter. There's all the good social media right there. And thank you for tuning in for this.